We see clients that are self-employed and now they're writing off every meal they have for the entire tax year because they're self-employed. And then we're looking at their expenses and say, okay, this you're going to get audited if we put this on your taxes.
Welcome back to On the Horizon. This is Melrose Michaels. I am your host, and I'm here to share what's worked for me in building my adult creator business to try to make building yours just a little bit easier. Let's get into today's episode. In the adult entertainment and content creation world, the path to financial empowerment is often as complex as it is colorful. Meeting Katherine on today's space, the innovative founder behind the only consultant in Prisma Tax Group, where traditional accounting meets the vivid spectrum of the creative industry. From scrambled eggs with just $400 in her bank account to reshaping tax consulting for adult creators and freelancers, Katherine's journey is a testament to innovation, compassion, and empowerment. And today, she's going to join us to peel back the curtain on the unique financial challenges and solutions tailored for the spicy side of entrepreneurship. Tune in and stay with us throughout this space as we dive into the world of complex tax magic, where each consultation is a step towards financial clarity and peace of mind. Let me introduce today's guest, Katherine Studley from The Only Consultant. So raised in Buffalo, New York, she's a tax accountant by trade, but a creative in essence. In 2021, she founded The Only Consultant, a judgment-free tax consulting firm dedicated to providing tax and financial advice to adult creators, exotic dancers, and other creative freelancers looking for a non-traditional tax experience. She had the idea while scrambling eggs with $400 in her bank account. Despite having no prior experience in the entrepreneurship or in the spicy industry, it became crystal clear that there was an overwhelming need for straightforward, compassionate, and judgment-free financial help. Her client list quickly grew to hundreds of small businesses, and in 2022, she founded Prisma Tax Group to help her clients achieve financial success and peace of mind. The multicolor light beams of the prism are each unique, just like the pathway to success for small businesses. By focusing on innovation, collaboration, and empowerment, this is not your typical accounting firm. Katherine, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to do this with you, and I'm just excited to expose you to our community of creators. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I'm also super excited to be here. This has been in the works for a while.
Yes. This is a long time coming.
Yes.
I think to kick off, would you mind telling us a little bit about like your background and how you became the only consultant and kind of what inspired you to end up in this specific industry?
Yes. So I'm an accountant by trade, like you said. So I have a bachelor's degree in accounting. I worked at several CPA firms in Buffalo and was having a very, very bad time. I said, okay, I'm never doing taxes again. Like this, I feel like this sucked out my soul. So I moved to DC and I actually worked for the intelligence agency for a year. And I said, okay, this is also not my story. I didn't mean to do this. And then when the pandemic hit, like everyone else, I was spending a lot of time on social media and I was on TikTok every day. And that is when I heard about OnlyFans for the first time. And like you also said, I have no exposure to sex work before ever hearing about OnlyFans. And the first thought that came into my mind as an accountant was, oh my God, everyone is going to get a 1099 and they're going to have to file, a 1040 with a Schedule C. And I bet you a lot of people don't know that this could be something that I could help people with.
No, that's perfect. And it's such an underserved and marginalized industry just across the board. So it makes sense that this would stand out to you.
Yeah. And I really had no idea how underserved the industry was to start. I just thought, okay, I'll make an ebook. Maybe I'll do a couple taxes. I'm going to work with just OnlyFans creators. And I was advertising on TikTok doing, the same trends that OnlyFans creators were doing. And then exotic dancers found me and sugar babies found me. And so many people, so many freelancers under the sex work umbrella found me. So that's how I ended up specializing in all of sex work and the adult industry. So everyone kind of found me after I said that I was judgment-free. I didn't realize how underserved the space was.
Yeah, just the statement judgment-free, how far that will go. It's really important.
Yeah.
I'd love to kind of jump in and just kind of pick your brain about what you feel are some of the most common misconceptions adult creators have about their taxes.
Sure. I mean, a lot of people are confused about which kind of tax return they have to even file because once you're earning self-employment income, I think a lot of people are confused if you have the April 15th filing date or if you actually have to file a separate tax return every quarter for quarterly taxes, which we'll dive into after. A lot of people think that they need an LLC to actually take write-offs and business expenses, which is not the case. A lot of people think they have to set themselves up on a W-2 and payroll in order to pay themselves, which is also not the case. And then a lot of times people are missing very relevant tax deductions and credits to their tax situation just because it's something that we're completely unfamiliar with because we're never taught about how taxes work.
Yeah, I've experienced this personally. Like when I first got into the industry in 2011, I was live webcamming and I was getting paper checks sent to me bi-weekly in the mail. So as this was like my first real, freelancer kind of gig economy thing, I had no idea that taxes weren't withheld. So, by the end of that year, after getting these paper checks in the mail and assuming it was just like every other job I'd gotten paper checks from before, you get hit with that huge tax bill and you have to like figure out what to do next. And it was such a rude awakening. This is always like the biggest thing I want new creators to know up front how to manage because it detoured my life essentially to having to come back from that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not anticipating, especially if you're working a typical W-2 job, you're used to getting a refund because basically what your employer is doing by withholding taxes every week or bi-week is that they're prepaying your taxes for you. So if they withhold $7,000, but you only owe $5,000, you get a refund of $2,000 at the end of the year. But like you said, if you don't have any withholding, if you earn $1,000 and you get a 1099 for $1,000, you're taxed on that full thing. And that's a shock for sure. It's definitely an adjustment. First couple of years of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I'm curious. So a lot of the creators listening, like maybe they don't have LLCs or they're not incorporated as businesses or they just don't know what tax returns to even file. Like, could you explain the differences between like a 1040, an 1120S, 1065, things like that?
Yes, of course. So this is based on your business structure, which is the entity that you are operating under. So 1040 is an individual income tax return. It's due April 15th. If you are a sole proprietor, which is any person who is earning self-employment income, you are a sole proprietor by default. That's the same thing as a freelancer or an independent contractor. You file a 1040 with the Schedule C, where you list your income and expenses. The exact same thing is true if you are a single member LLC. So a huge misconception is that LLCs equal tax savings. It's not the case. Your tax situation is literally the exact same tax form. That's the 1040. Second tax return is an 1120S. This is for S corporations. So you first need either an LLC or a corporation, and then you file the S Corp tax selection. Once you make this selection, you have to file a separate tax return in addition to your individual 1040, which is called the 1120S. And this is due on March 15th. And the last tax return you mentioned is the 1065 tax return, and that is for LLC partnerships. So if you have an LLC with more than one owner, you have to file a 1065. If you have an LLC with more than one owner and you make the S Corp tax selection, then you would file the 1120S.
Okay. So this is interesting because even just hearing that different types of tax selections have different filing dates, like that's not common knowledge.
Exactly. Yes. And a lot of people don't realize that they actually have an additional filing requirement. This is something I see all the time. I'll see clients are starting an LLC with a business partner. So they have a multi-member LLC and they each only file their 1040 individual income tax returns. But it's actually not correct. You have to file the 1065 in addition. So that's why it's important to work with an accountant if you have these structures, because there could be compliance issues that you're missing.
Yeah, that's really important. And I guess to your point about how these filings work, I would love to maybe discuss a little bit of like the pros and cons to filing each way, because I think a lot of creators, it's very hard for us to understand what is the better fit for us, like or what are the advantages to filing one way as opposed to another. Is there some like key indicators or key things that would help tell a creator what's the best way for them to be filing?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little preface to this, I can answer this from a tax perspective. There's also like some legal components to this. So first of all, like we talked about, an LLC does not equal any tax savings. So you don't necessarily need an LLC the moment you start earning self-employment income. What an LLC does, it stands for limited liability company. So it draws a line between your business and your personal assets if you were to be sued or go bankrupt. So I usually recommend that if you are in any contracts, if you're using an agency, a manager, if you have a contract with an assistant, with a photographer, with different collabs, you should have an LLC, and the contracts should be between your LLC and the other person or the other person's LLC. Because if something goes south and goes sour, at least you are personally protected. So that's the base for an LLC. Other things to mention about an LLC is that you get an EIN number, which is like a social security number for your business, which allows you to open up a true business bank account. So as soon as you're earning self-employment income, you should have a separate bank account. It could be personal or business, but the LLC will allow you to open up a true business bank account. Then for S corporations, this is not for everyone, but can be very, very advantageous for the right people. And this is based on self-employment profit. So that is your income less your expenses. And it allows you to pay yourself on a W-2 and set up payroll for yourself. And the self-employment tax does not apply to the net profit like it does to the LLC. You can set up a reasonable salary and payroll, and then you're only paying self-employment tax on your payroll and not on your profit. But again, I do just want to stress this is not for everyone. It does complicate your tax situation, but for the right people in the right scenario, there are massive tax savings to the S Corp.
If you're enjoying this podcast episode so far, please take one moment to share it with another one of your adult content creator friends, because you know what the rule is here. We do not gatekeep, and we want to make as many adult creators' businesses as easy as possible. And you sharing this episode with them might do exactly that. Thanks so much in advance. I'm actually writing down some notes because I know I'm presently set up as an S Corp myself. So I'm like, okay, some of these things stand out, why it's so overcomplicated and why maybe this is advantageous to me just because of where I'm at bracket-wise.
Yeah. I would say an S Corp starts to become advantageous if your self-employment profit is consistently around $65,000 a year. So that's why it's important to always be tracking your income and expenses, because if you hit $65,000 in August, we can get ahead and do tax planning and adjust your salary and adjust your withholding. Like set up a step, there's things we can do, but that's like the first indication would be your self-employment profit, and to make sure that you anticipate to consistently be earning that profit.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. You mentioned like getting ahead and also estimated tax payments. Do you personally, through your company, assist creators and clients with these, and why are estimated tax payments important? I know this because I learned my lesson, but for those listening.
Yes, this is a lesson you only have to learn once. Yes. Okay. So we can help with estimated tax payments. If you come to us tax preparation, we do generate vouchers for federal and for state on your estimated tax payments. This is the same thing as filing quarterly. You'll hear people say estimated tax payments, quarterly filings, it's all the same thing. It's not necessarily filing a separate tax return, but it is paying in your tax throughout the year. And it's important because if you don't, you'll have to pay interest on your tax when you go to file on April 15th. So you should be paying your taxes quarterly, and that is June 15th, which is just around the corner. Friendly reminder, September 15th, January 15th, and April 15th. So let's say last year you owed $10,000 to federal, then you should pay in $2,500 per quarter. And then when we file your taxes next year, you'd have a $10,000 credit. And if you paid too much, you would get a refund. And if you didn't pay them enough, then you would owe additional in April. But if you don't make those payments, there would be interest and penalties. And I do just want to say, you will not go to jail if you don't pay your estimated tax payments. You'll just accrue penalties and interest, which sucks, but it's not something to fear necessarily. There will be no jail time.
And that's super important to mention, because everything with taxes just feels so scary, like so scary, so overwhelming, so misunderstood. So those comments are like little bits of peace of mind for people listening. I'm sure of it because it's peace of mind for me.
Yeah, definitely. So like, I mean, we can dig into it a little. So like what would be a bigger issue would be if you're hiding your income. So if you are making money and not putting it on your taxes, that's much more serious than not paying your estimated tax payments. That's something if you're trying to commit fraud.
Gotcha. So that's the hiding of income, and that really is where they draw a line.
Exactly.
Okay. Would you say are like the kind of key factors to consider when calculating a salary for creators? Because I know as a content creator, as a performer, a lot of the money that comes in goes out. It's paying our bills. It's doing things that are necessary, expenses, living, maybe taking care of someone in your family, all of the real life things. So when you're set up as a business and you're paying yourself a salary, how do you calculate that when the average creator is typically spending all that they make realistically?
Yep, totally understand. So there's two points I want to make here. So a salary would be if you have an S corporation and you're paying yourself on payroll. So that's if you're receiving a W-2 from your business. When we're calculating that salary, this is a full analysis of your business. You're set up as an S corporation. We're reviewing your profit, the hours you spend on your business, income streams, your duties. It's more than just a basic percentage. So that's for S corps specifically. If you are earning 1099 income, you're self-employed, as a general rule for cash flow, I would suggest you deposit 100% of your self-employment income into your business bank account. This can be your separate personal checking account, or this can be your LLC bank account, but really it just has to be separate from your personal. That's the biggest thing. And you'll have all your deposits going into it. So if you're taking customs on Cash App and you're also on OnlyFans, Fansly, and Loyal Fans, and you have cash, it would all go into this bank account, all spicy self-employment income. Then I would deposit 25% immediately to savings. That's for taxes. That's so you can pay your estimated tax payments. That's so you can pay your tax bill when it comes in April, because no money is being withheld, so you can kind of get ahead of it. Then I would keep 25% in the business checking account. So that way when you slide your card and you go to buy new lingerie, new costumes, new production equipment, you're paying for promo, you're paying your assistant, that all comes out of the business checking account. And then I would transfer 50% to your personal account. And that's where you're paying for lunch with your friend. That's where you're paying for your rent. So that's kind of how you're always paying yourself out personally, saving for taxes, and then leaving money for your business expenses. So it's based on percentages, because I know in this industry, your income varies. That's in any self-employment position pretty much. One month you could be making more or less. So if you're distributing your cash by percentages, then that's kind of keeps it consistent.
Yeah, no, I love the percentage breakout because every creator can apply that across the board, just knowing what their average subscription or revenue is going to look like. So that's super helpful. I'm wondering if there's tax deductions that you come across in your I guess practice that are like constantly being overlooked by creators, and what those might be.
Yeah. So a tax deduction is the same thing as a business expense. It's the same thing as a write-off. Those are all the same thing. These are expenses that are lowering your taxable income, and they're going against your self-employment income. So if you make $20,000 on OnlyFans and you have $5,000 in business expenses, and you're taxed on $15,000. So we're talking about expenses that are going directly against your self-employment income. So things that are often missed, everyone has the ring lights, they're writing off costumes, promotion. These are like clearer, but people are missing health insurance. So if you are 100% self-employed, you are not getting your health insurance or a W-2 job, then your health insurance is completely a write-off to you. You can run that through your business bank account. You can also write off whatever you are paying your manager. You can write off a portion of your rent and utilities as a home office expense. This is based on the square footage of the space in your home that you're using for business. So if you use if your apartment's 1,000 square feet, your office is 100 square feet, 10% of your rents and utilities become a write-off. Same thing for your phone usage. So if you are using your personal phone 60% of the time for OnlyFans and TikTok and communicating with clients, then that's a write-off. And then also miles. If you're driving to photo shoots, to collabs, the miles that you drive are considered a write-off as well.
Yeah, the mileage is one that I didn't start tracking until it became much later in my career. And I feel like I missed out on a huge opportunity with that.
Yeah. So how that would work is you pay for the gas out of your personal account, and then you will track the miles that you drive exactly. I would use something like Google Maps or any system that works for you. And then when you go to file your taxes, we get you a credit back per mile, and it's like 66 or 67 cents. It changes every year. But it comes out to be a nice little bonus, but you have to have the tracking for it.
Yeah, and I know there's some apps out there like I think I was using MileIQ for a time, and I think QuickBooks has one where it'll auto track whenever you're driving, and then you can like swipe right or left to categorize it as business or personal and track it that way too.
Yep, exactly. Beautiful.
So you had mentioned, obviously we're talking about expenses and tracking these things. Can you provide some kind of tips on effective bookkeeping practices for adult creators? Because unless you're tracking or you have good bookkeeping practices, this all becomes very difficult very quickly.
Yes, for sure. So the first thing I will say is find a system that works for you and be honest about what you can sustain. If you are not a spreadsheet girly, don't do it to yourself. Do something that you can consistently keep track of. If it's in a journal on paper and pen, we can make it work. If it is a spreadsheet, we have templates you can download. You can use an app like KeeperTax. You can use QuickBooks. You can use a bookkeeper. But basically, the moral of the story is that you need to track how much income you're making from all of your self-employment sources. And this has to do with the same business. So if you're an esthetician or if you're in real estate, that's a separate list of income and expenses. This is only related to adult work. So all of your adult related income, and then all of your related business expenses. And we would need those by category. So as any system that works for you, as long as at the end of the year, you can say, hey, I made $55,000. I had $1,000 in meals, $2,000 in travel, $3,000 in wardrobe. And then we don't need to see the receipts as your tax preparer, but you would need to keep your receipts in the event that you are ever audited. And again, that's any system that works for you. So if you have a folder on your desktop, I personally made a Gmail that I would only send receipts to. So all my receipts are in a different inbox. You could keep them in a folder and paper, whatever system makes sense for you, because that's the beauty of being self-employed.
I love that idea of having a separate email because that's actually similar to a hack I use personally for my 2257s for all my collaboration documentation, is that I made a separate Proton email account. And then when I'm having collaborators or creators and performers fill out their 2257s and photograph their IDs, when we fill it out on this app I use called Quick 2257, it automatically gets emailed to that one email account for that one purpose. So it's very easy to access for me, remotely, and it's easy to categorize it and look things up. So I love that idea of just like a receipt-only email. That's super useful.
Yep. And it's easy enough. And then you can deal with it when you have to. If you have to search for it, you can, but it's not cluttering up your life in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk a lot about what's sustainable. And I love that because I'm a person who's like, if I can't maintain this, there's no point in starting. Like it has to be something I can do forever. Otherwise it's not going to work. Yep. So how can creators kind of plan for long-term financial sustainability and tax efficiency? Like that's a big question, but obviously everyone who's listening now, like this is something that is challenging for us. We don't have a lot of education around it. So what are the key things that stand out to you that will help us plan for long-term financial stability and efficiency?
Yeah. So the first thing, like I said, is to be distributing your income appropriately while you're earning it. So make sure you're saving for taxes, paying yourself, and also leaving money for expenses. That's the first thing, is to set up your cash flow systems. The next is to keep up on your tax payments, because otherwise you will get behind, which also happens all the time. It is not the end of the world. You can pay your taxes off like a credit card. You can set up a payment plan with the IRS and your state, and you can make it work. But if you're setting up your systems and you want to be proactive, you want to make sure you're always setting money aside for taxes. You want to make sure that you're filing your taxes even if you can't make those payments, because there is a separate fee for not filing your taxes. So I would say always make sure you're filing, and then you can talk to a financial planner. So we specialize in, tax preparation, LLC setup, and bookkeeping. But a financial planner, financial advisor is going to help you set up your retirement plan, investing more specific to your situation. And then we can collaborate with your financial planner to make sure that we're maximizing the tax benefits.
Very nice. Do you guys have financial planners that you recommend?
I do. Yes, I have a couple. So if you're looking for someone, we can refer you. I have a whole network of spicy friendly professionals who I've vetted over the last 5 years. So if you need a referral for real estate, mortgage lending, network security, financial advising, we have a list of people we can send.
Those are amazing resources, because those are the biggest pain points, especially when it comes to lenders, because the financial discrimination aspect of what we go through is very real and just very pronounced. So that's super useful. What are kind of the main tax compliance issues that you think adult creators need to be the most aware of?
So I think the first is issuing 1099s to collabs and management and photographers. This is any other independent contractor that you're paying over $600 to throughout the year. You should be issuing them a 1099. A 1099 is due January 31st of the following year. So if you hire a photographer, an assistant, and a collab, and you pay them all $1,000 in 2024, by January 31st of 2025, you need to issue each of them a 1099. And you would do this by having them complete Form W-9, which is the same form that you fill out when you start on any platform, the tax compliance form. So you'll need their name, address, social security number, and you need to know how much you paid them. And then you can issue the 1099. That's a service that we can do for you as well. You can also issue your own through different programs like QuickBooks. But that's the first thing that I think a lot of people are missing, because there's a lot of money moving around in this space on Cash App, Zelle, PayPal. You're paying out people on OnlyFans. Like, it's just kind of the nature of this industry. But there is a tax compliance moment here for all of that money that's moving around. So that's the first thing I think that a lot of creators should be aware of. Second is actually filing your taxes. I know it's very scary and overwhelming, and the pandemic threw everyone off. And if you're a couple of years behind, it's even scarier. And we totally understand that. Now is a great time to get caught up. If you're a couple of years behind, it's intimidating, but very doable. And you need to definitely be filing your taxes. And then the last thing I have is actually not so much tax compliance, but it's actually if you have an LLC, and that's if it's a partnership or single member, there's a new report that you need to file this year with the SEC. It's called the Beneficial Owners Report. And it depends on when you started your LLC, but for most people, it's going to be due January 1st of 2025. So that's something just to kind of be on your radar, is that you have an additional new report for your LLC, and it's separate from any of your state filings. It's a one-time thing. It's called the Beneficial Owners Report.
Okay. Is that similar to the FinCEN stuff that we were all talking about earlier this year? Is that something different?
The same thing, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, are there any specific kind of like tax planning strategies that you would recommend specific to adult creators that maybe can minimize their tax liability?
Yes. So we talked about the S Corporation for the right people. That's if you're tracking your self-employment income and it's consistently $65,000 a year, then we can help you to calculate an appropriate salary for yourself, set you up on a W-2. So that right there, for the right people, I mean, we've seen this save clients like $90,000 for the right person. So that's a big one. The biggest thing is to just be tracking your income and expenses so you can know where your money is going. Are you actually making a profit by working with your new agency? Just because your revenue went up 50 grand, if you're paying them out 50%, maybe you actually didn't even earn a profit and you're not even realizing it because you're not tracking everything.
Yeah.
And then another thing would just to make sure that your expense accounts are appropriate. Like sometimes we see clients that are actually not taking enough expenses. If you made $300,000, you should have more than $5,000 in expenses. So that's something too. And then working with a certified financial planner, you can set up like a SEP IRA. There's big tax savings for that. It's all very specific to your tax situation, I would say.
Yeah, I feel like when you're working with clients, especially adult creators, like getting a financial snapshot of anyone is very telling. I think just of a person, like it's like, wow, all the dirty laundry of where things are spent and what is prioritized in someone's life. It's very clear when you look at financials. So I feel like you probably get a really good idea of the pain points creators have when you're digging into this kind of information. Are there things that stand out to you about just clients in general that you're like, this is either a lapse in education at this point, or this is a kind of like a pain point for creators in this area? Is there something that stands out?
I mean, the first thing that's coming to mind is very high expense categories, just because, again, we're literally never taught how taxes work. So how are you supposed to know? Like we see clients that are self-employed and now they're writing off every meal they have for the entire tax year because they're self-employed. They're writing off groceries, DoorDash, and every time they eat out. And then we're looking at their expenses and we're like, okay, we have to revisit this. You're going to get audited if we put this on your taxes. Same thing for travel. And I know there's a lot of travel that goes on in this industry, but you have to be working for at least 50% of the days that you're gone. And the purpose of your trip must be for work before you take the expenses. So that's the first thing that I'm thinking about, is that we just see kind of very high expenses and mixed use of the bank accounts. So a lot of people are still operating all out of one personal checking account when really it should be a separate one. It's a very small thing you can do to set yourself up.
Yeah, this is a big one that I struggled with in terms of like when I first got my business set up, because I was very much like, okay, the business account has all the money, I'll just transfer it to my personal, or the business account's getting low and I know there's this payment going through, I'll transfer from my personal. Can you speak a little bit about like that idea of piercing the corporate veil and what that means?
Yeah, so you want to keep your business separate from your personal. That's going to help you to not get audited. That's like the number one thing that would prevent an audit, I think, really, is to make sure that you're operating completely separate out of your business and personal. And of course, we see it happen all the time. We just had a client ask us the other day, she's a real estate agent. She has to pay her brokerage fees and she just started. So she doesn't have the income in her business bank account yet. So he said, okay, we'll transfer it first from your personal to your business and pay it out of your business instead of it directly from your personal to the brokerage. Mm-hmm. And then we'll record it appropriately when we do your bookkeeping.
So a lot of that sounds like it can be sorted on the bookkeeping end separately then.
Yes. It can definitely be sorted. And that's something else we see, is a lot of people are panicking and really ashamed. But you don't have to be. As long as you're keeping track of everything, we can sort it out when it comes time to do your taxes.
Okay, that's awesome. I know a lot of the creators listening, and this was something I always have concerns about whenever, we're approached to do a collab at SWCEO with someone, or just hearing things from the community, like because it's the sex work community, because we're adult performers, our privacy and confidentiality, like these are always top of mind. So I think a really big question that I would love to ask is like, how do you ensure the confidentiality and the privacy of your clients and creators?
Yeah, this is a huge deal to us. One, because we're a tax firm and privacy and confidentiality is a huge issue for taxes. But two, like you say, we're working with sex workers. So the stakes are much higher if we get hacked and everyone's information gets leaked. And it's something we've been working very diligently on for the last year. We've actually built our own infrastructure and it's customized to us. So all of our tax preparers and assistants and managers, we're all using a VPN and virtual machines to actually prepare the taxes. We're doing daily backups of all the data. We have 24/7 monitoring for early detection for hacking threats. And then separately, as far as like due diligence goes for working with the sex work community, everyone is background checked specifically for sexual offenses. And I work closely with Ramina from Queens of the Underworld, and we have an annual call, or every time we hire someone new, just to discuss sex work in general, because there's, sometimes a disconnect between accountants and bookkeepers and the nuances of the sex work industry. And I want everyone to understand that this is not your typical demographic, and you need to have additional education on the clients that we serve.
Oh, I love that. It is. This industry is so specific and it's so different. And I can tell you I've been in this space 12 years now, and I've gone through, probably 8 or 9 different accountants who either mismanaged things or couldn't serve me or just straight up ghosted me or because I had no recourse. I had no course of action, because it's so hard to find people that are willing to help you, especially if they have, opinions about the work that you do to start with. So that's really, really nice to hear. I'm curious, how do you feel the rise of OnlyFans and kind of similar platforms have sort of changed the landscape of tax consulting and accounting? Because this is such a different era, this creator economy.
It is a different era. So initially, when I had the idea for this in 2020 and I was trying to hire accountants, no one would take my call. Everyone was hanging up on me. People are like, this is never going to work. You're insane. Like, no accountants are ever going to touch sex work. You're never going to staff this. So that was kind of the attitude and the sentiment 4 years ago. And I would say, about 2 years in, now everyone kind of wants a piece of the industry, but they don't understand like the nuances of it, right? They're just seeing dollar signs, but it's a completely different industry. And I think that they don't really understand a lot of the expenses. But we're seeing an influx, of course, in entrepreneurs and freelancers, and there's actually a decrease in people that want to be accountants. So yeah, it's definitely changing. I think a lot of people are doing their own taxes, and there's a lot of good resources to complete your own taxes for the first time. Like the IRS has a free filing service. I know some of these apps like KeeperTax and TurboTax have CPAs that you can work with, but I think that it's forcing the industry to be a little bit more judgment-free than they would have been previous, but it's because this is just how the world is shifting.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think there's unique challenges that maybe adult creators face compared to traditional freelancers or small business owners? Because, I view what we do as adult performers very much as, a freelance entrepreneur and very much as a small business owner, but there's definitely unique differences. I'm curious what your take on that is.
For sure. And this is something that I had to learn as I started, because I also see the industry and always have seen the industry as legit, and this makes sense. And this is a group of entrepreneurs. And then I took my calls for free for a year so that I could learn about everyone's niche in small business. And client after client after client is telling me the judgment and discrimination that they're facing, and just the general stigma, which was honestly news to me and very upsetting. I felt like a very, very controlled rage every time someone would call me and say that they're getting kicked out of a bank or getting kicked out of their accounting firm, just being constantly judged. And this is, I don't even have words. It's really upsetting. But we actually got our payroll company dropped to us, Prisma Tax Group, just for working adjacent to the adult industry. That's how sensitive the banks are. From a tax perspective, though, it's exactly the same. 1099 income is the exact same tax return that you would file for anyone else, only the expenses are different, and people want to be judgmental about it, which makes no sense to me.
Yeah. And I had my other company, SWR Data, which we basically survey creators to see where they're finding success, where they need more help, and produce these reports that we can give back to the industry. And when we did the financial discrimination report with Free Speech Coalition in collaboration, it was 1 in 4 adult performers had lost a financial institution due to the work that they do. And that was mind-blowing to actually have the data on that finally, because we all know and experience it, and the stories anecdotally are there, but to actually have the data finally on what that looks like, that was wild to me.
Yeah. And I would say that's about right. Yeah. 25%. I think that's accurate, but it's a huge issue. Clients are lapsing on their mortgages. Their money is getting stuck in the platform and in their bank. It's a different address that they use to open up the bank account, and now they have 50 grand that just got mailed in a check somewhere else. Like, it's actually a quality of life issue. It's a human rights issue, and it's very concerning. But what Free Speech Coalition is doing is amazing in this space. I'm really excited to see where they go. Their credit union.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting. I'm watching that pretty closely myself. We have some questions that are coming in from the creators that are listening. And the first one that we've got for you is, what are tax write-offs for non-LLC creators?
So your tax write-offs would be exactly the same if you have an LLC or if you don't. The tax LLCs don't allow you to take additional tax write-offs. It's just as soon as you're earning self-employment income, you can write off expenses that are both necessary and ordinary to you earning self-employment income. So just like I can run through some just from like a high level. So that's marketing, shout out for shout out, paid promo, whatever, paying your assistant, your photographer, cameras, computers, ring lights, wardrobe that you're wearing in content creation that you wouldn't wear in your day-to-day life. So that's like, lingerie, different toys, pleasers, like adult specific. You can write off your tax preparation, portion of your phone, home office, miles that you drive, but all of that is the same if you have an LLC or not.
Okay, I think so many creators are going to have so much value from that, just to have that spoken clearly in that way. The other question we've got here is, if you're currently making under a certain amount, do you still have to file? For example, if I make $500 each quarter, would I still have to file?
Yes, all of the income that you earn is taxable. Once you earn over $600, you'll receive a 1099 NEC. And this is actually a little nuance that we can talk about because different platforms are paying creators out differently. So on Fansly, for example, they issue a 1099-K, and the threshold for that is $20,000. So if you earn $19,000, you're never going to get that document, but that $19,000 that you earned is taxable. On OnlyFans, they issue a 1099-NEC. So the threshold for that is $600. So once you hit that, you'll get the tax document. But as an entrepreneur, it's up to you to be tracking all of the income that you earn throughout the year from all these platforms and be claiming that on your taxes.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that you touch on too, like the payments from like Cash App or Venmo, because there's so many creators or sex workers that do take payment off platform, and that's a common thing that, especially if you are really struggling or if you're maybe a survival sex worker, you can't afford to give up 20% or 50% to a platform, and you're doing it all yourself. And you're saying that it's okay to do it that way as long as you track it and account for it, essentially.
Yep, exactly.
This other question, it says for earnings, do we only have to count what each platform has sent to us, or do we also have to count earnings that we are waiting to be paid out on? So I'm not sure about the threshold for how long they're waiting, but maybe you can speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, so it goes based on the income that you earn throughout the year. And I know for OnlyFans, they're a little bit funny how they do this. So if you earn $1,000 on December 31st, but you transfer it to your bank account on January 1st, it gets counted towards the next year, even though it was earned in the previous year. That is actually incorrect accounting. So you should go based on what your 1099 says at the end of the year. So you should go based on what your OnlyFans 1099 says. And then for like Cash App, like if it's floating, it should be when it actually hits your bank account.
That's an interesting distinction between the two.
Yep.
I did not know that about OnlyFans.
Yeah, we had to learn that.
Well, at least now we know.
Yes. Yes.
This last question I've got here says, as a newer S Corp, what do you find the benefits or cons to getting health insurance through the business versus simply purchasing it as an individual?
That would be a question probably for your health insurance rep. We only deal with like the deduction itself.
Okay.
I'm not sure about packages. I have someone I can refer to you if you're looking for health insurance.
Awesome. That's something that's a referral I would definitely take because I am uninsured myself. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The last question I kind of think I'd like to end off with is like, do you have any success stories or like cases where you severe or significantly, I guess I should say, benefited the adult creators? Have you, for my case, it was definitely the accountant that helped me turn around my tax situation. Do you have stories like that?
Yeah, certainly. So several clients, we have caught them up on multiple years. They come in, they haven't filed since 2019, and we just knock it out year by year by year by year until they're caught up. And once they catch up on their taxes, they're able to buy property. So that's one thing. Again, with the S corporations, we're saving clients between $5,000 and $90,000 if you set those up and you're the right person. Another thing we can do is amend your tax returns and get you a potential refund. So we had a client who earned $250,000 and she had almost no expenses because she wasn't aware of what was considered a write-off. So she paid way too much in tax. So we were able to amend her tax returns, work with her to go through her expenses, and then she actually got a refund. And then later we set her up on an S corporation. Sometimes you just kind of need a fresh set of eyes on your taxes and your small business.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm curious too, like for the creators who are listening, who maybe they've already gotten themselves set up in a QuickBooks or something, or maybe they've worked with a bookkeeper but not necessarily an accountant. Do you guys take on clients like that, and is it easily integratable into the structure you've built and what you guys do to kind of transfer people over, transition people over?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you've never used an accountant, we can work together. If you need to switch over from an accountant, we can work with your other accountant to get the information. Yeah, this is tailored to the industry. I've spent a lot of time really getting to know our client base. And what's beautiful also about our client base is that I feel like everyone's my peers. Like I'm 30. I'm also an entrepreneur. I truly understand the stress surrounding the situation, and we work to just tailor all of our messaging and systems to the industry. So yeah, no matter what you have going on, I'm confident that we can find a way to work together. If it's just quarterly calls, bookkeeping and tax, all of it, it's whatever level of support you're kind of looking for.
Well, this has been immensely valuable. I know so many creators are going to play this Twitter space back, and they're going to play back this podcast episode and take notes and make calls and set things up. And I'm so grateful you came on today, Katherine. We really appreciate you. Can you plug your socials for everyone listening so they can follow?
Yes, sure thing. So you guys can find me at _only_consultant. That's on Instagram and TikTok. Obviously, you guys can see where I am on Twitter or X, The Only Consult. And then also you can visit our website, theonlyconsultant.com, and the tax website is prismatax.com.
Thank you so much, Katherine. This has been amazing, and I'm sure it won't be the last time we have you on.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone for tuning in and listening. And remember to make your estimated tax payments June 15th.
Love that. Awesome. So now as we kind of begin to wrap up this space, I would love everyone listening to make sure you follow Katherine, follow SWCEO if you're not already. And also, if you haven't already seen, we've been releasing new content over on our YouTube channel. So if you're not yet subscribed to our YouTube, please do so at youtube.com/SWCEO. Make sure that you have notifications turned on there so you never miss a course or a video. We recently put out a video called Destroying Age Verification in Less Than 5 Minutes, where we expose the truth behind these policies and how they pose a very serious threat to adult creators and consumers. This SWCEO video is super valuable. There's also a link in its description for you to oppose age verification policy in your state. So make sure you click that. It takes 3 seconds. Wanted to do a huge thank you to everyone who's subscribed to our SWCEO Telegram bot. If you haven't already heard, we released a Telegram bot that essentially sends you your daily dose of content inspiration and all the captions you need for your feed, PPV locked messages, clip stores, etc. The ideas are researched to be highly trendy and desirable for what your fans are currently seeking, and the captions are optimized with calls to action to increase your earning and unlock potential. And if you're not an active Telegram user, but you would still like PDF versions of the content inspo and captions from the bot, you can get that right now over on sexworkceo.com/shop. We recently launched our store there with PDF downloads of the same content inspo and captions that are featured in the Telegram bot, but we have additional downloads available there as well, like unlocking sales scripts, sales objection scripts to help you close the deals in DM. And there's also free scripts that are available that you can get without spending a dime. So head on over to sexworkceo.com/shop to download those after this episode. And then last but not least, I want to take this opportunity to draw your attention and remind everyone listening about SWR Data, my other company. We did mention it in this episode, in case you're not yet familiar. So SWR Data is on a mission to survey adult creators like you. We want to hear your feedback about the challenges you face and how the adult industry can better serve your needs. Our goal is to collect your experiences, opinions, and observations about the current state of the adult industry, and then we'll use that data to advocate for the necessary changes to make it a better place for us, the creators. Because the reality is that a lot of the people in power have never been creators and simply don't have that lens to know what our needs are. And SWR Data is that lens, but we can't do it alone. So I genuinely do need your help. So for that reason, we are going to invite any creator who's willing to participate in our qualifying survey, which helps us understand your expertise as an adult creator. By taking that survey, you can then start participating in future paid surveys, with our ultimate aim for the CEO squad to have an additional income stream through SWR Data's surveys alone. Your experience as a creator is super valuable, and we think it is time you got paid for it. So if you are interested in getting paid for future surveys, please comment to let us know you're interested, and then we will send you a DM with a qualifying survey link so you can join us in this mission. I want to emphasize that all of the information we put out here on SWCEO, we do so for free because we do believe in this idea that the more financially successful creators are, the more resources we'll have as a community to do things like lobby Congress, impact policy, organize, and more. So if you found value in the content you heard here today, which I know you did, or the tweets that you've engaged with, please, please, please consider sharing this to make the journey easier for your own adult creator friends. Our only ask is that you retweet our stuff so that we can all help as many creators as humanly possible. So thank you in advance for that. This is going to bring us to the end of today's space. Thank you again, everyone who joined. Remember, all of these spaces get turned into written blog posts that are available over on sexworkceo.com, so you can head on over there to revisit any of these ideas. And as for next week's topic, a while back we got asked, and we did a poll, kind of asking about how you would feel about joining a closed creator-only community. And the results were a staggering 97% of you wanted this. So we have finally done it, and I'll be talking about what it is, the benefits of being a member, how to join, answering all your questions. Yes, there is an app, so make sure you join us to hear all about it. Thank you guys so much again, CEO Squad, and I'll see you all 1 week from now.
It would be absolutely incredible if you rated this podcast 5 stars and left a little review. We want to get this podcast to as many adult creators as possible, and you taking a second to leave a couple stars and a review really helps us do that. Thanks so much.